Nursing care for the perioperative patient. A perioperative nurse is one who delivers care to patients before, during, and after surgery. Therefore, we can talk about three phases of nursing care. The preoperative phase begins with surgery decision and ends when the patient is transferred to the OT or the operation theatre. The intraoperative phase begins when the patient is taken to OT and ends when the patient is admitted to the post-anesthetic recovery area. The post-operative phase begins with the admission to the post-anesthetic recovery area and ends with the follow-up evaluation in the clinical setting or at home. Surgery is a stressful experience. Lots of fears are there in the mind of the patient. There is the fear of the unknown, such as fear of pain, fear of death, fear of anesthesia, and concerns about the loss of work, time, job, support from the family, and of permanent incapacity. Therefore, it is the duty of the nurse to not only assess and correct the physiological problems, but also address the psychological problems. Careful assessment is necessary, and this includes a good history. Past surgical history should be taken to find out about any bad outcomes or distressing experiences had from previous surgery. One can also check what kind of anesthesia was used in that surgery and what were the outcomes. Allergies should also be checked for, and these include allergies to medication, food, substances, and also the products being used in the surgery such as tape, latex, iodine. Any identified allergies should be clearly marked on the front of the chart. A drug history should be taken both for prescription drugs as well as OTC drugs. Any current infections, any illnesses, any chronic illnesses such as asthma, diabetes, high blood pressure, heart disease, stroke, etc. should also be checked for. One can ask for habits that would affect anesthesia, such as alcohol, smoking, or street drugs, recreational drugs, etc. The physical exam should be thorough. One can check for vital signs, the nutritional state of the patient, body weight, and also routine blood work such as CBC, urea electrolytes, PT, PTT, ECG, and X-ray should also be done. One can also look for fluid and electrolyte balance. A consent form should be prepared and duly signed after giving all the important information. Pre-op teaching is also done, and this involves giving instructions to the patient on the afternoon or evening before the surgery. The patient should also be told about the post-operative care. He should be told about therapeutic devices such as indwelling catheters, NG tubes, and chest tubes, which he may find attached to the body. He should be told about the expected pain and the fact that he can ask for any pain-relieving medications. Post-operative self-care should also be advised, such as coughing and deep breathing exercises, which will be done. He should be told about leg exercises and turning, which will be involved in the post-op phase. The planning for discharge and any projected change in lifestyle should also be mentioned and told to the patient beforehand. On the day of the surgery, the following physical preparations need to be done. Leave instructions that the patient be given a regular light diet or only a liquid diet, or the patient should be kept NPO after midnight and not given anything to eat at 12 o'clock midnight till the day of the surgery. The skin also needs to be prepared. Mild antiseptic soap and water is used to clean the skin and keep it bacteria free, and certain areas of the skin may also need to be shaved. Bowel prep is also done in case of colonic surgery, and an enema or a laxative may be given to minimize the chances of infection if bowel is resected. Nursing responsibilities also includes carrying out all orders given by the team, placing the ID band on the patient, and making sure that final preparations are done and recorded completely, and the nurse also is to accompany the patient to the operating room. Before full anesthesia, certain injectable medications will be given to the patient. These may be sedatives, anxiolytics, narcotic analgesics, anticholinergics, tranquilizers, antibiotics within 1 hour prior to incision, and anti-aspiration medication. The nurse should also make sure that there is removal of dentures, jewelry, contact lens, glasses, and hearing aids, etc. Information to the family should be given as to what time the surgery is, how long it will take, and what they can expect after the surgery is over. The intraoperative phase. The patient is transferred for surgery and the floor nurse checks the charts and makes sure that the patient is correctly identified. There is a record of the pre-op medication made. All checks are repeated and made sure that the patient is fully ready for surgery. There are several common positions in which the patient is put in the operation room. There is a circulatory nurse and a scrub nurse. The circulatory nurse responds to the request from the surgeon, from the anesthesiologist, and interacts with the supplies and delivers them to the sterile field and carries out nursing care. The scrub nurse prepares the surgical site and tray. She maintains surgical asepsis while draping and handling instruments and assists the surgeons by passing instruments, sutures, and supplies. The post-operative phase. After surgery, the patient is transferred to the recovery room by the circulating nurse. Close observation is kept in a ratio of 1 nurse to 1 patient or 1 nurse to maximum 2 patients. Standard and emergency equipment should be present, like in an ICU setting in this phase. Almost all patients also receive oxygen. Continuous monitoring is done via ECG, non-invasive blood pressure measurement, and pulse oximetry, etc. Input and output charts are maintained. Subsequently, all pre-op orders are discontinued and post-op orders are rewritten in the post-anesthetic care unit or the recovery room. These include vitals, the patient's position, the medications to be given, the intravenous line, the type of PO intake which the patient should get, any activities, any diagnostic tests, dressing changes, etc. The immediate post-operative complications ABC: airway obstruction and breathing, respiratory insufficiency, for which the treatment may involve stimulation, chin lift, jaw thrust, establishing a nasal or oral airway, re-intubation, or mechanical ventilation. The circulation complications may occur due to internal bleeding or hemorrhage. Treatment for this involves placing the patient flat, monitoring and maintaining blood pressure via IV fluids, and also giving blood. Other complications may include shock, for which the position of the patient should be changed slowly, the Fowler's position should be avoided, and the legs should be raised. The patient may also have pain, and this should be taken seriously. Their demands should be attended to, and epidural or IM drugs, NSAIDs can be given. Post-operative nausea and vomiting is also a huge problem and occurs in 30 to 70% of post-op patients. Antiemetic medications are to be given. Other complications may be neurological problems and or hypothermia. Once the patient is considered ready to be discharged from the post-anesthetic care unit, the patient is transferred. This usually happens when there is a patent airway with sufficient ventilation, vital signs are stable, there is normal movement of the patient, and improving loss of consciousness, and the patient is also responding to questions. General post-op care includes nursing care, which is aimed at preventing complications, and this occurs through vigilant assessment and good nursing care. Vital signs should be assessed regularly every 15 minutes, and gradually the interval increased until they are being assessed every 4 hours. This is done for the first 24 hours. Infection is usually a problem, and the nurse should not change the first dressing, but leave it for the surgeon to do this. Strict measurement and charting of fluid intake and output is maintained, usually until oral intake is re-established. For the safety, there should be ready equipment available. The side rails of the bed should be raised, and a call bell should be easily available. The patient will also need assistance in getting in and out of the bed. The nurse's duty involves keeping the patient comfortable and giving them sufficient rest. Respiratory insufficiency is best avoided by cough and deep breathing exercises, which the patient should be asked to do. Early ambulation and leg exercises are started so that deep vein thrombosis is prevented. Drains are to be inspected and cared for. For the discharge, the nurse has to individualize the need of the patient and inform them about certain areas of their life such as diet, activity, prescriptions, elimination, complications, sexual activity, special exercises, visit with the surgeon, removal of sutures or staples, and care of the incision. Once the nurse has educated the patient on all of these areas, the patient is discharged